Uh, Hello, my name is Ignacio Andrade, and for my presentation, I will be explaining the key points found in Lee's chapters 11 and 12. At the beginning of chapter 11, we got to see just how restricted the Johansi's knowledge was of the bigger world around them. For example, seeing as how they were nomadic in their previous generations, they had traversed about 30,000 square miles. Uh, and even when asked about the largest mass of water they know, instead of pointing to the Atlantic Ocean, they pointed north to the only largest river they knew, which was the Okavango River, if I'm saying that correctly. And uh, previously, they were calling people who they didn't really know and who had just kind of interjected themselves into their society, quote unquote, wild animals, as seen in chapter 11, page 167. Before, they had no knowledge of them. And one thing any human fears most is the unknown. And after a brief time of building reciprocity between them, and the Johansi's word for them, home, it has like an exclamation point in the middle of it. Well, not in the middle, on the one side to it. Changed its connotation to one of familiarity. Whereas even in the newer generations, they were barely scratching the surface of this intertwined monetary-based lifestyle from their original hunter-gatherer society, which was an oddity to them. In one such instance, one of the Johansi was offered up $10 to do a job, or €10 to do a job, but he ended up being given two $5 5-pound notes, which at first he was a little saddened about it because he was told he was going to get 10, and later he was told that those two pieces of paper actually was the equivalent to the 10 pounds or euros he was supposed to be paid. And this was just a simple case of a misunderstanding, but goes to show just how much all the changes that came when the Marshals came all that time ago to their first expedition to study the Johansi. And the main points of chapter 11 was to show just how different everyday Johansi life was from the rest of the world, where the Johansi now are trying to adapt and live in tandem with the new world. They had been introduced to such things. They had been introduced to different things. Some of the key points are the Johansi's knowledge of the outside world was very limited, but compared to their original territory, they were deeply intertwined with the land, understanding of both flora and fauna and many other aspects that helped them survive in their hunter-gatherer subsistence. A second key point from chapter 11 is how the Johansi had been making headway in trying to learn and understand concepts of the new monetary subsistence, though in the beginning they were a bit resistant due to fear. And in chapter 12 dives more into the side of the Johansi in the future, or in a more modern context, where more and more of the new generations of the Johansi are finding jobs and have been more or less fully transitioned into a monetary lifestyle, different from their forefathers' original hunter-gatherer subsistence strategies, where some of the Johansi lived in Kangwa, that also has an exclamation point in the beginning of it, which is a settlement that the Johansi had been placed at due to the central government. There you go. The first store opened up in the area in 1967, making some goods available to the Johansi. Also, the foragers of the Johansi were stuck in a bit of a bind because of the greatly reduced and limited space available to forage and cultivate. even having to hop or climb over surrounding fences to forage for the little food they could reach. In the upcoming years, in 1973, the first school had opened at Kangwa, followed by a second at Sai, if I'm saying that correctly, spelled like XAI with a slash. Though it was great to have schools in the settlements, since they were government operated, there were some setbacks, such as yearly school fees, having to pay for uniforms or other necessities. And that was a lot to handle for some of the Johansi families who weren't able to expend the little money they had to send their children to school. Also, the only families of the Johansi who were able to send their children to school were the ones who sold mead. Families also had concerns for their children's safety because the area was very populated, and as such, there was a lot of people who were inebriated, which didn't give them the best, the best feeling about sending their kids to school with so many seemingly dangerous people who aren't right for that moment. And among other things, there was also corporal punishment in place at the school and restrictions on speaking their native languages. Some of the Johansi were even settled in a livestock subsistence, though some, if not most, of the cattle were loaned, where one could only assume part, if not most, of the profits went to the main owners of said livestock. In 1978, there was a drought which made life difficult for the Johansi, though they received government assistance, that really restricted their societal growth and their self-subsistence. Life for the Johansi seemed to be getting more and more difficult to survive. Some of the key points in chapter 12 were to show the steady acclimation and determination of the Johansi, instilling themselves into the new cash economy, trying their best to keep their heads afloat, and show how the dependence of some of the Johansi on the government was stunting their societal growth, not giving them proper legs to stand on and become self-sufficient like their forefathers were. These chapters are important because they show the effects that modern-day people had on a once self-sufficient society. These chapters focus on the aspects of culture such as subsistence strategies, economy, and lifestyle. Sure, all of the marvels of technology and different goods to be acquired can be helpful to make their life easier for them, but it's a double-edged sword. There came some setbacks with all of that. No longer were the Johansi able to hunt and gather like before, or travel and leave sickness behind. Being able to claim their freedom instead of taking loans and working dangerous and backbreaking work. Who could say that if the marshals had never been on their first expedition so long ago, how would the Johansi be living today? Still free, without a care of the outside world, living peacefully among their kin and the land that had helped them survive for so long. And that's the end of my presentation. All sources are linked in the script. Thank you.